friends, it's Gwen and I'm back today with another scrapbooking process video. Today's share is episode 24 in the Maggie Holmes Monday series that I have been doing, and I've got brand new Maggie to use today, so I'm going with Market Square. I do have a bit of a plan. I have these two pictures of myself that were taken fairly recently when I got some new spectacles, so I want to document those. And I'm using this cut file from Cut to You called Floral Tags. And that's where the plan sort of ends. Oh yes, I'm thinking about using this tag, but spoiler alert, doesn't end up on the page. I do struggle a little bit with deciding the color scheme for this layout. I was going to go with those peaches and the blacks, but in the end I decide to go with these lovely blues and peach sort of tones. So in this collection I have actually just got the 12 by 12 paper pad, and in that I'm sure there's only one of each design. So before I go working with anything, I like to create the border around the edge. And to do that, I sometimes cut this footage out. I wanted to include it for you today. I just go ahead and cut an 11-inch square from the inside part of the pattern paper. And then that leaves me a 1-inch border, which gives me some wiggle room. And then the pattern paper that goes on top, I simply just chop off 1 centimeter off two sides, and then it layers on top beautifully. So at this point I am still playing with the idea of using that peachy colored background and then the black and white frame for my page. So I do end up matting the photos, or just getting the mats ready for the photos in that same black and white print. And it's here that I kind of decide that it's a bit heavy and I want something that's a little bit more soft and light. So I drew my inspiration from this pattern paper, and it's going to play a big part in the layout today. In fact, it's used 3 ways. So it ends up being the frame for the layout, so the border. So I'm now only left with that 11 by 11 inch square from the center. I'm going to fussy cut out a couple of the florals, and they're going to end up being embellishments on the layout. And then I'm also going to use, very strategically, the leftover parts to mount my photos. So I was super careful about which flowers I was going to fussy cut, and I made sure before cutting anything that I had enough space left on that 11 by 11 inch sheet to have the 2 squares to mount my photos. I hope that makes sense. Now onto the cut files. I am keeping this pretty simple for this page. Usually I would go ahead and maybe back all of those pieces separately. So I'd back the flowers in one color, I'd do the leaves in another, and then the background in a third. I was a little bit time poor for this layout, but I also wanted to kind of keep it simple. I didn't want it to be too busy, knowing that I had those florals that I was working with. So I thought, why not tie together the floral pattern paper that I'm using and that background that looks a bit like a log, a ledger, and why not use a geometric to back my cut file? And I found this one, which was in the perfect shade of this bluey green, so it's going to tie in super well. And it's also a really fast way to back the cut file, because essentially instead of doing all of those intricate details of the leaves and everything, all I'm doing is the tag. So this did not take very long at all. And because it was so quick, I thought, why not include all of the footage in this video here for you? I do get asked a lot about how I go about backing cut files. So this is a really simple, easy way to do it. Liquid adhesive, stick it down onto the pattern paper that you would like to back, and then fussy cut with your scissors around it. In this situation, I have done a rough cut first. I find it easier to get rid of the bulk of the paper and then go back and neaten things up. And you'll also notice that when I did mat those, I left that 1-inch border around the outside of that pattern paper because I think I might use that as a frame on another layout, and I want to keep that option open for myself. Yeah, so here I am cutting out the other florals, and you can see that I'm choosing them very carefully here. I'm going to cut that one there, and then that will leave a perfect square to mount my photo in the bottom left-hand corner. And then there is also enough room up in the top right-hand corner that you can sort of see there as well for the second photo. So it works out perfectly. I do end up even with a couple more florals that I can fussy cut out. They're not whole florals, but they are little bits and pieces that I could tuck behind my layers. So I will keep those as well. I was really surprised actually at just how far this one pattern paper stretched. This whole layout uses 2 full sheets of pattern paper and then probably maybe another half a sheet of the grid paper. So that's only, so let's round it to 3. So let's say 3 pattern papers for this layout, which I think has quite a layered look to it in the end. And I don't know, it just gets me thinking about like just how much we need. Like this paper pack, what's it say? 48 sheets. So I'm not good at maths. What's 48 divided by 3? 16. Yes, I did go away and grab my calculator. So this paper pack could make about 16 layouts. That's a lot. That's a few layouts considering I would make maybe 1 a week. That's probably 4 months worth of layouts. Anyway, back to the layout, and this is everything mapped out. Nothing is stuck down. I will adjust slightly, but I do realize at this point that I haven't added my stitching. So I do go away and add stitching to the background and to both of the photos. I also did mark the photos top and bottom just so that I knew which one was where, because I had gone to the trouble of mapping it out. So I do want to replicate it pretty closely now that I'm putting everything back together. I do end up having the tags offset a little bit, so they're not exactly up and down. See, the bottom one is slightly more to the right, but I do go to the trouble of lining up the photos. I then go ahead and position my fussy cut florals, so that's them all there. And I did fuss with this a little bit because it was at this point that I sort of realized that a lot of those cut file tags were being covered up, and I don't really mind that. I'm okay with that because they did still help me create the page. They are creating the layers within the layout. I don't feel like it needs to always be this big superstar of the show. For me, it's much more about making them more included in the layout. I don't want the cut file to be the feature. Same with I don't want the products, the scrapbook supplies to be the feature. I want my photos to be the feature. So sometimes it works out that the cut file ends up being covered up quite a lot, and I'm totally okay with that. And that's sort of how this one ends. Okay, so with that all sorted, I do want to have a look and see if there's any other small to medium-sized embellishments that I'd like to use. So I do a quick sweep of the ephemera pack. And then if you saw the unboxing, you'll remember that I had this pack which just had a bunch of letters and numbers in it. And I was concerned that I might not use all these up. So I found this one which was in the perfect color. It had the number 5 on it. And I thought, you know what, let's just add these as little tabs in my layers. And I'm super happy to get that on this page. And I think that might be my strategy moving forward. Every time I make a layout with this collection, I might see if I can somehow incorporate even just one of those so that eventually the little bits and pieces get used up and I'm not left with a bunch of random letters and numbers and hardly any pattern papers, and then I'm not sure what to do. So far so good, 1 from 1, winning. You might have noticed too that when I do that sweep through the embellishments, as soon as I decide that it's not for this layout, so it might be too big, might be the wrong color, whatever reason, I will then set it aside. So it's not in my work area there, and that's to help me stay focused. I do find it hard sometimes to make choices. So that's a strategy that I use to exclude things. Often choosing an embellishment is far more about excluding things than it is about choosing things for me. So there's that. I add in my title here. I did add it on some foam tape, and 10 minutes into the layout, we're finally ready to glue some things down. I think the photos are attached at this point actually, and I had added a little bit of adhesive here and there just to keep everything nice and positioned. I am also going to look at adding a couple more smaller details, which you'll see here. But first I need to lock down all of the little leaves. I'm going to go ahead and lock into position the cut file and just make sure that everything is super stuck down and I'm happy with it all. I was really keen to use this butterfly, so keen. I did audition it in quite a few places, but it does not stay. It was just too heavy, I think. Yeah, so there's that. I also do go ahead and grab out some of the epoxy flares. These are from Scrap and Happy Studio. It's I think she's got a .com now. She did have, when I bought these, she did have an Etsy website, but now I'm pretty sure she has a .com. If I find it, I'll leave a link in the description. Yes, so I'm adding in a couple of those, and I do find a couple of elements from the chipboard sheet, including this cute little bird, and then there's the peach heart that's on the right there. And I just found that adding those elements were like the little finishing touch details. They're small elements, and before adding those, I didn't really have anything that was small in size. A lot of these collections have elements that are quite large. So I do like to finish out these pages with a few smaller elements just sprinkled around, and I feel like that really finishes off the page really nicely. So I'm going to call this one done. Thank you so much for being here, my creative friends. If you like the way that I scrapbook or the way that I chat about the way that I scrapbook, I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't seen the other Maggie Holmes Monday pages, be sure to check out the playlist. I have created one with them all together for you. I'll leave you with close-up images as I always do. And thank you so much for spending your creative time with me. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, bye.